Hi and hello watch fans, and welcome to another edition of the Real Time Show with me, your friendly neighborhood watchmaker, Rob Nuts. Today I am joined with one of my design idols, I would say, Marco Borraccino of Singer Reimagined. Don't start laughing just yet. Come on, I haven't even finished the introduction. All right, okay, welcome to the show, Marco. How are you doing?
Hi, Rob. I'm doing great. Thank you very, very much for your invitation. It's always a pleasure to chat with you, and thank you for the appreciation.
I was being serious. You're laughing, but thank you very much for coming along onto the show, because I know you're very busy, because when this show airs, your newest release will just be, I think, 1 day old in the market. So maybe we'll start off there. Could you tell us a little bit about this new model and what it is that you're so proud of seeing it come to market?
So I've been waiting 6 years before introducing something, let's say, new to the Singer Reimagined collection. I wanted to take the time for people to understand what the brand is about and to establish, in a way, the proper language, proper identity for the brand. So now the time was right to introduce something that is, let's say, the next step for Singer. So we just presented the 40 millimeter watches with a metal band. That's something. It is an exercise that is always very complicated. Watches with a metal band are around everywhere, but to make it right and to be satisfied of this kind of product, you need to make it really very well. And I hope the effort and the time we spend developing these watches will help, will give us the result and the appreciation that we hope. So we just presented the 1969 collection. That's the way we call it. 1969, because 1969 is a very iconic year. In everybody's mind, there's something that is connected to this year, even just the moon landing or Abbey Road from Beatles, the last album they published. And for the watchmaking industry, it was also a quite important year. 1969 is the year when the first automatic chronograph, the three first automatic chronographs were released. And it's exactly where, if you want, Singer Reimagined started from. So the idea behind the brand is to reimagine the iconic automatic chronograph. And that's why 1969 is meaningful to me. And that's why 1969 is the name of the collection we introduced.
I tell you, you've done a fantastic job with that bracelet. Like you say, it's such an important aspect of watches, especially now with the, I would say, advent, maybe a second golden age of steel sports watch design. And you've really thrust Singer Reimagined into that conversation now. I mean, this is going to be a piece which stands shoulder to shoulder with recent success stories like the Moser Streamliner or the Chapek Antarctique, for example. And you've managed to create an extremely identifiable design language, not just in the case, which is obviously what you were building towards with this release so that people understood it immediately. But that bracelet, I mean, that's come out of nowhere for me. That's an absolute peach of a design. And what I like about it, I've been trying to push this new term, Marco, right? So we've all heard of integrated bracelets. Now, this is not an integrated bracelet in the sense that it couldn't be removed or replaced with a leather band if somebody really wanted to. This is what I call an integral bracelet, as in it is integral to the watch's overall character, but it doesn't mean that the customer has to keep it if they don't want to, although I'm sure they all will. Was that intentional when you designed it?
Absolutely. Absolutely, yes. Is to me, the to leave the client free to enjoy his watch the best way he prefer is key. So when I was designing these timepieces, I really wanted to have to leave the flexibility of keeping the metal bracelet, or eventually to interchange it with a leather or with a rubber band. That's why the size match with our existing straps. So it's really a matter of being able to create and to wear your timepiece the best way you want. And as you said, a lot of brands today are developing integrated strap that is a completely different, I would say, approach. It's really the I would say the opposite way we went when starting this project.
Well, I think you've done a brilliant job there. And we've started off right at the very present moment in time, but let's take it all the way back now so that our listeners who maybe don't know so much about Singer Reimagined and maybe haven't been fortunate enough to encounter you in their journey through watchmaking, let's go right back to your early life. I believe you spent that in Milan. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm Italian, and I made my design study in Milan. I'm from Milan. I started as a product designer a few years ago, and I
1 or 2.
yeah, and I was, I would say, lucky enough to step into watch design with an Italian company in my early professional days, where I understood a lot of what watch design was about, because we were designing for several brands, and I had the chance to experiment and train myself on very different subjects, very different matters in terms of style, in terms of cost, in terms of everything. And this was the baggage that I brought with myself when then I moved on and I was hired by Panerai, where I was lucky enough to be the very first designer that was hired by the brand back in time, where I had the chance to work side by side with Mr. Bonatti, that was the CEO and the person that actually brought Panerai on the scene, on the worldwide scene, brought Panerai to the big success that it deserved. And I learned a lot from this guy that was really a visionary. So yeah, that was my time in Milan until 2008, 2009. I was spending my time there, and I started visiting Switzerland because of Panerai and because of the manufacture of Panerai. And at the point in time, working for a brand like Panerai is very rewarding on the side, but can be also quite limiting when you are a creative person, because the identity of the brand itself is so strong that doesn't allow you to express very much of what you are or what you want to do. So I took the decision to leave the brand, even though I had a very interesting and convenient position, and I set up my own design studio in Geneva. That's where I started collaborating with other watch brands as a consultant. At the same time, arriving in Geneva, I had the chance to step into the director of the design university in town, that asked me to collaborate with the recently founded design department to bring some larger perspective beside what was historically done into the school. So I brought this industrial design vision, and I brought the watch design vision. And I realized that in Switzerland there was no watch design chair existing at the university level. Back in 2013, 2014, I founded with the former director of the school the very first watch design teaching in Switzerland. That was quite an achievement for an Italian guy migrating to Geneva. So that was funny, but it was as well a fantastic experience. And and then my path crossed the path of Rob Dickinson, that is the guy that founded Singer Vehicle Design in LA, California. And we realized that we had a lot of things in common, so we decided to join our visions and to create Singer Reimagined as a extension of a Singer vehicle design, and let's say bringing the same philosophy that was applied to the car universe, bringing it into the watchmaking industry.
Okay, so you've had 4 real distinct chapters in your career as a consultant, as a head of design at an established brand like Panerai, in academia, which is unusual and very interesting. Dive into that a little bit more. And then as an own brand owner. So let's just go back and pick a couple of points up there. So what do you think, even though you were working within the creative constraints of a major brand with its own very established heritage, what do you think your greatest achievements at Panerai were?
Let's say that I was very lucky when I joined Panerai, because it was early 2000, 2003, 2004. And the brand was blooming. It was really the time when Panerai was getting, very visible around the world. There was a big work of creating and consolidating the identity of the brand, not only in terms of product, but also in terms of communication, in terms of language. So I was involved as a creative person, most of the creative aspects of the brand, that was about catalog, shooting, events. I had the chance to really stretch my muscles on different fields. And all of these experience, if you want, they became very precious probably 15 years later when I started Singer.
And what do you think of the direction that Panerai has taken in recent years since you left? Because like you said, you joined at brilliant time for the brand when everything was on the up and it was the it brand really, and the Panaristi were out in force. In recent years, and maybe it's sort of recently started to recover, the general perception, though, it's been in the wilderness a bit for the last few years. Do you see that yourself from the outside looking in?
It's very difficult for me to judge what Panerai is doing, because there are a lot of friends there and that are doing a fantastic job. Panerai is a brand that deserves a lot of, I would say, respect. I think they made, I would say, a major mistake. Is something that is probably driven by the fact that Panerai belongs to a group. I think they're aiming to produce too many watches. Even though they can sell them, Panerai is not meant to be a brand, a mass production brand. Is not, I don't know. It was born as a very connoisseur, very under the radar object. And I don't know, if I was there, I would have kept it a bit more exclusive, maybe, I don't know, more, I want to say confidential, but sometimes it feels like it's a bit of stretch, all the version, all the variation that are done on the same team. But then I understand the need of a brand to generate income. So it's always difficult, when you are inside, to be able to find a good balance between everything. And when you have your investor that are asking for a result, and the market that want novelties, and you need to manage so many aspects. So it's also for me, I mean, providing this comment, it's a brand in general that there's still a lot to do, but is probably not on the amount of watches that they produce. Is more on the specialities and the very they I don't know, they could be even more specialized on some stuff to be very unique.
Yeah, I think exclusive is the word, really. Like it's a club kind of thing. It's sort of, like you said, under the radar. I always imagine like the true Panaristi sort of meet in secret down some cobbled street in an underground lair, and they sort of talk about their watches that nobody else knows about. And of course, the incredible allure of that kind of exclusive club blew the brand up in the early years, and now they're kind of dealing with that extreme popularity while also trying to retain, as you rightly say, that confidentiality of the relationship between the brand and its consumers. And I mean, it is natural for major brands to go through these peaks and troughs and find themselves again it's hard to stay in the same place with watchmaking. You could say if you stay in the same place, you're going backwards. So like they have to move forward and find a new way to still be relevant after the major buzz of the early 2000s. But that's a very good answer, and I'm sure you are in a very good position to sort of comment on all other brands because you have worked as a consultant. Are you able to tell us some of the brands that you advised during that period, or is that all knotted up with confidential agreements?
But there's a frustration of a lot of designer that works in the watch industry. All the paper that you have to sign,
Sure.
when it comes to big brands and groups is
Okay.
Unfortunately, it's quite frustrating. But yeah.
No problem. Let's move on to your academic career, because this is a fascinating chapter in your life that I didn't know so much about, and I was doing some reading about your time with Het Genève, the design school in Geneva, and I couldn't believe that you established the first chair in watchmaking in Switzerland. It seems almost unfathomable, but what was that experience like? Did you meet, I'm sure you met many interesting people, and did you learn anything from your students themselves as you were teaching them?
But first of all, I never imagined to become a professor in my life. So that was already very, very surprising to me. And I have to say, I did enjoy it very much. The fact of dealing with young talents and young creatives, transfer to them what you have learned, and to help them to develop their way of creating is fantastic. Is an incredible feeling, because in design you cannot teach somebody to design something. Either the person in front of you is able to do that or not. It's something that you have inside yourself. Is a sensitivity, is a matter of taste, is emotional. You need to understand the person that is in front of you and understand how you can help him or her to become the designer that is hidden inside them. So it's really fascinating to see how certain person that are sometimes very shy and very close on themselves, then at a certain moment they really blow up, and they start understanding what they want to do, and you are there to help them. It's really fantastic. So when you're working with as a designer, you probably do things in a kind of a automatic way because you know how to do it. When you need to help somebody else to find his own path, is incredible, because you can appreciate the process from outside. It is, and it was a fantastic experience.
Did you have a mentor yourself when you were younger? I mean, how did you start designing? Because, I mean, we started off by saying, oh, you got your first design job. But, I mean, where did it come from? Were you creative as a child?
Inside my family, I got influenced by two persons. One was my daddy, my father. Thanks to him, I developed a very deep love for cars. I used to work in the car industry, and it transferred to me the passion for the four wheels. And the other one was my grandpa, that on the daytime was a banker, but in the afternoon and during the night he was a painter. Looking at him, like painting, drawing, always intrigued me a lot, and I was always drawing beside him. But the other thing about him was that he was someone that today we could call a geek. Back in the 70s, and from the 70s, he used to buy and collect every single new thing that was coming on the market, like TV, radios, telephones. And it was the time when objects became colorful and funky. So I used to spend a lot of time at my grandparents' house, and they used to have this orange TV screen, or this red plastic telephone, or these lamps, these sofas. And it was like, when you have an image of the 70s, interior. That was my grandparents. They used to live in Milan, and they came from the area where all the major furniture brands are based. My grandpa was really a fanatic of all these objects, and I was surrounded by all these things that were very stimulating my eyes and my mind. So when it came to decide what I wanted to do in my future life, I decided that I wanted to design things, to play, to create emotion in people, to please people to use them. So that was the reason why I started my design studies in Milan.
Amazing. What a childhood to grow up surrounded by all of that as it's happening. I mean, what an explosion of creativity that decade must have been. I'm from the 80s, so I guess that my childhood was a little less glorious.
You had Duran Duran.
I had Duran, yeah, and it's just stuck with me ever since, as you can probably tell. I'd explain those bright coloured shirts that I wear to all those meetings. Yeah. So eventually, I guess, like after your career in academia had taken you to those heights, you decided in 2017 to start Singer Reimagined. Now, I believe this came about after you met with Rob Dickinson, as you said, the founder of Singer Vehicle Design. How did that meeting come about? And, what was the conversation like when you first sat down with one another?
At the time, I was still with the university and with my consultancy office in Geneva. And as I told you, I am a petrol head. I cannot cure myself. I love cars. And when I saw what Rob was doing with the Porsche 911, with the restoration of Porsche 911, I lost my mind completely. I was crazy for what he was doing. So I found in any way to get in touch with him, and it finally happened. And we realized quite quickly that we had some shared vision of things. The love for this era, for the 60s and the 70s, for example, it was something that appeared, say, immediately. And but the first time I met him, it was just about cars. There was nothing else. And as I was consulting, one day I dropped him a line asking him if he would ever consider to create some other kind of product carrying the Singer brand, because the brand was going to be quite strong around the world. And he replied me that he would have loved, but he was so much focused on cars, and cars was taking so much of his time that it was impossible for him to do anything else. And he added one sentence saying that there were some watch brand that got in touch with him. They wanted to make some co-branding thing, and he refused the collaboration because he didn't feel it right. He didn't want to compromise the identity of the brand with the identity of another company. And he said, if ever Singer will make a watch one day, it must be as spectacular as our car, nothing less. So I went to sleep with this sentence in my head. The day after, I start really thinking of what a Singer watch could have been. And accidentally, I start drawing what today is the Trek one. So I collect vintage watches. I love Chronograph. I'm really passionate about this complication. And what always bothered me was the readability of the chronographic function, because you have all the information that are spread around the dial with these small counters. So I started imagining a watch that was first of all a chronograph, and I started to figure out the way to split the information of the time of the day from the time of the chrono. in the end, I came out with a drawing, with a design that later became the track one, and I showed him to Rob, and I sent him actually some drawing by email, and he called me back, and he told me, Marco, I love it. We have to do that.
Wow, that must have been something special for you.
I was like, wow. And I say, okay, I no problem. I can help you to develop the watch, design it, and say, no. If we do it, you have to take care of it.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, boss.
So that was how things started. It was really not. I was not expecting to find myself in the position I'm today, because I really enjoyed to consult and to design for different clients. But in the end, when you realize that you can really build something that has your own signature, that has your own, that carries your values, is a chance that it doesn't happen twice. So I really put all my effort and my energy on the development of this watch, and then the brand. But things were quite complicated in the beginning, because even though I designed the watch itself, we didn't have any movement to make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big deal. I mean, firstly, you've done something there. You've gone to sleep with a vision in your mind. You've come up with something that's never been done before, and there's a damn good reason why it's never been done before. Because I guess that resulted in you having to develop a new movement to carry your vision forward. But how did you do that? Who did you partner with, and what was that relationship like?
So I started wandering around the countryside of Switzerland to discuss with a movement maker. And as you can imagine, when you tell somebody that you are a startup brand, and that you aim to develop a new chronograph with a completely new display, and you need it in a short time, they just laugh at you. So is that
oh, great! Another madman has just walked into the building. Yeah,
yeah, let's say another crazy guy. So say, yeah, you put on the table 10 million and we can do that. And we didn't have 10 million, so it was like, okay, let's see what can do. And so I was getting to a point where I was about to tell Rob, listen, it's going to be impossible to make it, or we need to make it in a much simpler way, because the investment to do it is too big. And as I told you previously, at the time I was at the head of the watch design chair, and I founded a scientific committee. Within the scientific committee, I invited people from the watch industry. And one day, after one of the meetings we had with the scientific committee, I had lunch with one guy that was named Jean-Marc Viderecht. And we were discussing about important matter for the university and so on. At a certain point, he asked me what I was doing beside the university, because he knew that I was collaborating with some brand. And I took out my notebook, and I showed him accidentally the drawing of the Singer watch.
And the rest is history, I guess.
And then the rest is history, because he looked at me and he said, literally, what the fuck is this?
Just what you want to hear.
They say, yeah, it's a new watch I'm working on. It's the idea of a central chronograph with the time of the day that gravitate around the dial. He said, who the hell told you about it? I asked him, sorry, what do you mean? He said, who told you about my secret project?
Huh.
I said, nobody told me about your secret project, but I'm very interested in your secret project. So we sat for a long hour discussing about it. So at the end of the day, the thing was very, very simple. We had the two of us the same idea of improving the way the chronograph was working by centralizing the chronograph information in the center of the dial. So he had in a drawer, in fact, the beginning of the future Asian graph, but he didn't have any client to pay for the development. And I had on my side the client who could potentially buy the project, but we didn't have enough money to pay for it. So we found very quickly an agreement with Jean-Marc. So we invested in the very early day of the development of the movement, but we agree with them that they were for them to be allowed to sell the same base of the movement to other brand in order to be able to finance the full project and to be able to reach a scale factor in terms of production. Because when you produce something new, like a movement like this, you need to produce hundreds of components if you want to get prices that are reasonable. As a startup brand, we were not able to guarantee this volume. So the agreement was quite easy, quite fast taken. We let them offer the development to other brands. That's why Fabergé came into the equation as well, and most recently as well, Moser. They came into the project. But back in time, back in the 70s, the watch industry was also founded in the very same way. Brands and company, they were used to merge their energy to build up something that was then shared by all of them. So in a way, we made the history repeating with this Asian Graph project. But we were, let's say, at the very beginning of the creation of this movement, and it was very exciting because it's the time when things happen, and when you can take the decision of how things will look like, how things will be. It was very impressive to work with Jean-Marc and with all the Asian team to make this crazy movement coming to life.
So how long did it take from that first launch? And let's just make this clear: never underestimate the power of a good launch.
Absolutely.
With the right people in watchmaking. Often the best way to get things done. Either a lunch or over a beer is normally where most of the best business takes place. So how long did it take from that first launch to you actually having something that you were able to put in a case and then start to show the world?
We launched the Singer brand. We unveiled the Singer brand on June 17. So I would say 3 years.
3 years, wow. And during that period, you were still chairing the watch design in Geneva?
Yeah, and consulting and doing other stuff. So it was a very interesting time.
And how about Rob? What was his involvement like? Did you see each other a lot during that period? I mean, he's out in LA, right?
Yeah, we used to see each other a lot also because he loved the idea of the watch and since the day one. So I was traveling quite often to Los Angeles. That is not bad, accidentally, and spending some time there. Also to when you want to translate the DNA of a brand, you need to live it. So even though I knew quite well the product that Rob was doing, spending time with him, sitting with him, looking at how the people at Singer vehicle design work and the process and the finishing and the thing was very helpful to me to then translate all of this thing into the watch itself, into the all related things that gravitate around the watch itself, the packaging, the point of sale material, the communication. So it was a very interesting time to really get deep into the DNA of Singer.
I mean, it must have been such a different experience from your time at Panerai. I mean, you mentioned that there's only so much you can do as a creative individual when you are within a big brand structure. And now you are, in this role, the leader of an entirely new project, and you have your hands on everything, like you say, not just the watches, but the packaging, the POS material, all the communication as well. I guess you had to think about that. I mean, were you glad of that? I mean, was it satisfying, or was it a lot harder than maybe you thought it was going to be in different ways?
I was thrilled by this, but as you can imagine, it was very, very demanding. And being there in the beginning, I would say alone, can be also quite scaring because you have a big responsibility. And but in the end, is what I like to do. I realized it. I knew it on the very deep of myself, very bottom of myself. But I really enjoy to be able to oversee and generate everything around the brand itself, because you have a vision, and you can apply that vision to every aspect. And managing a small structure, we are really a handful of people at Singer today. Everyone is very involved, very personally to what he does, and everybody brings his own let's say contribution. But I'm still able, to facet or model every creative aspect that come out from Singer.
So how many people do you have working for Singer now?
We are 6.
Wow. Okay, 6 people. I mean, that's a tight-knit team. So, I mean, everybody's got to bring their best to the table, because there's nowhere to hide in a company of 6 people. That's for sure. So, of all those things, of all the difficulties and all of the things maybe that you didn't expect when you started the brand, what has been your favorite aspect of being a brand owner and obviously a brand ambassador for the whole project?
Not sleeping is probably my favorite. Not my favorite.
Yeah, forget about that. Forget about sleep.
Forget about sleep. No, it's when you finally see your watch, your product on somebody else's wrist, and you feel that the person is appreciating it. You understand that what you are doing is right, and that I guarantee you is probably the best reward for all the effort and all the sleepless night and all the energy that you have put into the company. The creative part is by far remain my favorite. I can enumerate a lot of things that I do not like to do, but I have to do. And the list is quite long. Is let's say still creating what amuse me the most.
So how many watches has Singer actually put out into the market now? How many pieces are on people's wrists around the world?
I really do not know. I never counted. I don't like numbers really, but I would say probably we are around 300-400.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. Have you ever spotted one in the wild on a wrist of somebody that you've never met, they've never met you, and like that moment when they realize it's you and they come over? What's that like?
Fantastic. It happened me a couple of times. And to see to get close to somebody, telling him that he's wearing a nice watch, and he proudly said, "Do you know them?" And then this conversation start is something amazing.
So you go in there stealthily, like, pretending like, oh, that's a sexy little watch you've got on there. Oh, that must be a lot of fun. It's a good job.
Yeah.
Nobody says, oh, yeah, it's crap. Jesus. If I ever meet the guy that sold me this, thank God for that. So tell me this, right? 3 years after you started, obviously the pandemic hit, and that caused a bit of a upheaval in the industry and caused a lot of problems for a lot of brands. What did it do for you? Was it a good thing for sales? Was it a bad thing for supply? Tell us what that was like.
It was a very tough time, Ray. Both, I would say, personally and business-wise, because we didn't achieve yet the status of a brand that is well known and that is able to sell watches, let's say, online, because people that buy a Singer watch, they fell in love with it when they put it on their wrist. So it was very difficult time for us to go through. We were lucky enough to be a small team that helped us not to have too many charges to face. And we also tried our best to get in touch with the people that could, let's say, support us. We did some action in Asia, for example. We were, I was spending my very early morning on Skype call and team meeting with collectors on the other side of the world that received the full collection of watches, and I was presenting them online from my place. It was very tricky to find a way to get through it. We did it. We sorted out, but it was very complicated. The other thing is that since pandemic, all the supply chain became just crazy. So we are still suffering ourselves, like most of the watch brand around. We are still suffering from delays and crazy situation due to the pandemic still today.
I mean, it's interesting because of your shared development of this movement with brands like Fabergé and Moser, of course, you've not just got to worry about your own supply that is depleting the available movements, but also the supply to other brands, I suppose. So it can create quite a backlog. And what's the longest waiting time you've had for a watch that you've already sold before delivering it to a customer?
It was probably when we launched the flight track that was in the very beginning of the pandemic. So we got like 1.5 years, to wait before delivering the first watch.
Oh, well, luckily enough, it's worth waiting for. So, I mean, I guess that's the advantage of doing a good job. People don't mind waiting that long. And in some ways, I've noticed that the pandemic has made people much more comfortable with waiting a long time for something. A lot of the consumers that I talk to, a lot of the listeners to the Real Time Show say that they're happy to get their money in early for a watch that they believe in. And then if it takes a year or it takes 2 years, they're actually okay with it because they know that they've committed to a project they believe in, which obviously if it were released 1 or 2 years later would be even more expensive. So in some ways, they feel like they're just making an investment in their own future. I'm talking of pricing, though. I had this thought recently because I love Singer Reimagined. And when I first saw the watches in person and tried them on, I think one of the things I said to you was I was blown away by the execution of the design. Now, the design to me was arresting enough on the screen, but seeing it in real life, it's absolutely mind-blowing, like how well it's all done, the tolerances, the closeness of the components to the crystal, so it feels like everything is leaping out of the watch into your face. I was like, wow, this is a wonderful, wonderful concept. But I wondered at that time, do you have any aspiration to create watches maybe in a similar vein design-wise, but in a vastly different price bracket. Do you sort of look up at the very, very high end of horology, like six-figure watches, or look down to a more affordable level, like MB&F has tried to do with the Mad 1 editions and whatnot, and think, you know what, that would be fun to try and experiment in that field? Does that ever come to you? Do you think that's something you're interested in the future?
Let's say that what we do today at Singer is, I mean, the price point is driven by the complexity and I would say the execution, as you said, that we deliver. It was not a starting point for us. It happened to be like this because of the cost of the movement, because of the cost of the component we use. So we couldn't do anything different. Of course, I would love to make watches that are more affordable, to be able to please much more people. I think there would be a lot of potential for our design language applied to a lower price point product. Max did this exercise very well. They are very successful with that. Not sure we will do something in that direction, because for the time being, we are really keeping, developing things that are never been done before. We're playing with things that unfortunately remain quite niche, quite exclusive, and therefore quite expensive.
I'm not sure that that's something that we should ever feel bad about. I mean, for goodness sake, there's a lot of meat left on this bone, as they say. And to that end, what are your plans for the next 10 years? If I could say to you, what do you imagine Singer Reimagined to look like in 10 years' time?
Honestly speaking, I have no idea. We had planned for product development for the next few years. How things will go and where Singer Reimagined will stand in 10 years is probably out of my capacity of imagining it, because I try to make the exercise for the finance guys. It's so difficult. I mean, projecting what is going on next year with the uncertainty of the supply chain, the market changes, the war, the pandemic, all this shit. I mean, nobody can tell today what is going to be watchmaking industry in 5 years.
That's a very fair point. I mean, it's all very speculative. I also have to produce these financial plans for many years ahead, but I'm totally conscious of the fact that I can spend a week doing that, and then within 6 weeks' time, it will all be obsolete because something will have changed and thrown the industry on its head again. But I think that the state of independent watchmaking is pretty healthy. I think coming out of the pandemic, it's one of the groups of watch companies that seems to be thriving the most. Do you feel that? I mean, is there still a great interest in the brand?
Yeah, there is. And, for us, it feels still like the beginning of something. Is, as you said, we went through 2 years of pandemic where during these 2 years, very little happened, at least for us. So it's 6 years that we exist. The first 6 to 8 months, it was really quite abstract, our existence, but we were there. I have the feeling that people now are starting recognizing what Singer stands for. Our design language become familiar to people. The complexity of our movement start to be digested as well. That was something that was quite difficult in the beginning, because a newcomer brand coming with such a big innovation was very disruptive. And most of journalists were not ready to understand it. So I let you imagine what the public was about. I mean, people just didn't realize what Singer was. So I feel today we're starting to be recognized. So for me, I would say, I don't want to say is the starting point today, but we are on the beginning of something.
I think that's a really fair assessment, a very accurate assessment as well, because when you were coming into existence, I was a journalist, and I must admit, like the first time that I saw Singer Reimagined, I didn't really get it. I liked it, but I didn't feel it. And I know for a fact, because I have my own experience to lean on, that over the years, seeing what you're doing, each release further explaining the brand, further confirming the design language and justifying the complexity and shining lights on different aspects of the watch, the movements, the display, what it is you're trying to say with it. I feel you've made it. I think that it's there now. It's done. Like, your feet are under the table in the industry. You are an established independent brand. Everybody that loves watchmaking, well, not everybody, but probably most people that love watchmaking knows about Singer Reimagined. I haven't heard a bad word said. I think that the creativity is next level and what many brands should look to as inspiration for the future. And that will come around again to my last question. But before that last question, I have a bit of a whimsical one for you. All right. If you weren't a watchmaker or a design-focused academic or a consultant, what would you be?
An architect.
An architect? Okay. Oh, all right.
Yeah. I love architecture. I love create. I mean, I know it's not that original and far away from being a designer, but that was I was what I really would have liked to be. Of course, a race driver, but I'm sure I would have been a better architect than a race driver.
Well, there's still time, Marco. There's nothing to say that you can't design a building at some point in your life, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
All right, good. Well, we'll keep our eyes on that project. I look forward to it. Okay, last question for you. All right, because you have had one heck of a career and, a really interesting upbringing. What advice do you have for someone hoping to follow in your footsteps? You don't have to give me like specific things, because I know you don't want them to come and steal all your business. But like, if you were like mentoring somebody starting out, what would you say to them?
What is very important is to keep following your desire and to keep follow your gut feeling. Is something that helped me immensely. I was really stupid enough to do that, because sometimes you make mistakes, but every mistake you do bring you probably closer to what you really want to do. So never underestimate your gut feeling and try as badly as you can to do what you really enjoy.
Bold advice. What a brilliant place to end what has been a fascinating interview. And thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I know it's a very busy week with the new release, but I'm sure that it will be met with, I'm sure it already has met, should I say, because it's already out. I'm sure it has met with great acclaim, because it deserves it absolutely. So hopefully we'll get you back on the show in the next few months to talk about the response to that new watch and everything else that's coming from Singer in the future. If you would like to send us any questions for Marco or for future guests, or just for our Q&A sessions on Tuesday, then please do get in touch via the usual channels. You can contact me on Instagram at RobNuds, that's ROBNUDDS. My regular co-host can be found at Alon Ben Joseph, that's ALONBENJOSEPH. Or you can contact us via email, either Rob or Alon at therealtime.show, or via our contact form on the website, www.therealtime.show. Please like, follow, subscribe, and share the podcast with everybody you know, even if they don't like watches. This might be their starting point into the industry. We will see you next time. Until then, stay safe and keep on ticking.